Hey everybody, my name is Ed. Okay, so we're going to do another comic review. This time it's going to be a mini series, Slayer Repentless. So I've got one, two, and three. And they're all from 2017. Okay, so it's published by Dark Horse. Like I said, it's a three-part miniseries. The story is basically a former white supremacist breaks out of jail and he seeks revenge on his old gang who's killed his black girlfriend. Along the way, he has to navigate his way through a world of violent bikers and militia gangs on his road to vengeance. Okay, so the creators are basically writer John Stepp, who's done work on the animated series Metalopolis, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, Space Ghost Coast to Coast, with art by G.U. Villanova, who's done work on Star Wars comics and Aliens, and the colors are Mauricio Wallace, who's done Doctor Who, Weird Detective, and the covers are by Glenn Fabry, Preacher, Transmetropolitan, Hellblazer, etc. All right, and just to back it up, obviously this is a comic book that's done in conjunction with the band Slayer. Slayer, for people who don't know, is a thrash metal band that was formed in 1981 by Kerry King and Jeff Hanneman, Tom Araya and Dave Lombardo. Kind of completed the first lineup. The band stood out due to its combination of speedy tempos, aggressive attitude, and dark lyrics. They weren't the only band taking this approach, but they soon became what was known as the Big Four of thrash metal, and that's along with Metallica, Megadeth, and Anthrax. So Slayer became one of the most influential bands of the genre. Many of their songs revolve around themes of like violence, death, horror, war. And just getting to the plot of the comic, it's more or less based on a trilogy of songs and videos from Slayer's Repentless album. So that's You Against You, Repentless, and Pride and Prejudice. So the story is basically Wyatt is a former neo-Nazi who's been warring with his older brother Adrian for years. His black girlfriend is murdered, and Wyatt is hunting down his brother and the people he thinks are responsible. So he returns her body to her family, who lives in a small desert land, or desert town, I should say, of Repentless. He and his companions meet sociopathic drug dealers, bikers, small town folks, and of course the band Slayer themselves. His path leads them to a bloody confrontation, and through dialogue, etc., the comic is peppered with references to various Slayer songs and themes. And some of it works, and some of it's kind of awkward. So it's an interesting story dealing with like crime and violence and racism. And it's more of an action revenge story, though, rather than a nuanced take on any of these issues. It's well paced at about 3 issues, and it doesn't do a lot of comics decompression. The storytelling is reasonably dense and it's compact, and they pretty much get straight to the action. The comic does end on a pretty cynical note. And again, it's less about justice and more about anger. It doesn't call so much for systemic changes as much as personal vengeance. The dialogue, I'd say, is mostly functional, although it's a little clunky in some points. Again, the ideas of race and white supremacy, they're pretty surface level. While it's interesting, it doesn't really deal with it on a social level. Again, it's more a setup for the anger and violence. And, the racism is defeated, but it's defeated through violence and death. I'd say the emotional core of the story is really about revenge and family conflict. As the story goes along, we see the roots of Wyatt and Adrian's conflict. Both of them are angry young men, and we see how Adrian was the more cruel of the two, and how it started out years ago when they were children being raised by a racist uncle. Ultimately, while it's an anti-racist story, it really does come down to the conflict between these two individual men. Now, Now, the art by G.U. Villanova, it's fine, although not particularly outstanding. It has a scratchy, sketchy feel, but it is competent. I'd say the panel layouts are pretty straightforward. The storytelling is pretty direct. It's not confusing, and Villanova does a good job of setting locations and letting the actions flow. The art is helped by the coloring by Wallace. It's cool and moody when it needs to be, and then it's bright and stark when it needs to be. The visuals don't hold back on the violence. It's all pretty brutal. It's pretty explicit. There's lots of gunplay, knives. We get to see blood and gore and body parts, and much of it's directly on panel. So just to wrap up, I'd say Repentless, written by Schnepp, but art by Villanova and Wallace from Dark Horse. Its storyline focuses on violence and revenge. The art's not stupendous, but it is functional. The script's okay. It's full of suspense and violent action. Touches on some darker themes concerning racism and murder. However, again, the way it deals with these issues is more surface level rather than nuanced critique. Overall, though, it is a decent comic book. It's violent and cynical, but it is compelling. So it's a decent representation, I'd say, of the band and their themes. Oh, and just to give you a little bit of example of the art. So, just really quickly here. There's some setup there. All right. Kind of skip ahead. Here are the guys. Like I said, plenty of on-page, on-panel violence. Animal cruelty. Well, actually, the animal cruelty here is actually not on page. Believe it or not. Okay. All right. Again, here's the guys from Slayer getting in on the action. Tom Araya. Okay. Oop. I don't want to give too much away here. Okay, so then that's it. Once again, I got to thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. You guys have a great day. Whoops. Here we go.